you've written this book, People and Permaculture. When did you start really researching it seriously?
Well, about 2 years ago, I started thinking, well, how do other people use permaculture in their lives apart from just in the garden and on the land? And so I started interviewing people. And over the 2 years of writing the book, I interviewed about 50 people, not all just with permaculturists, but other people that were involved in people. We're all involved in people activities all the time. So I interviewed about 50 people.
And what kind of questions did you ask them?
Well, one of the questions that I asked everyone was about what was their hope for humanity, what was their positive vision of what can we actually do, and then what was their role in that, what were they doing to partake in that and make that vision a reality.
And that process of exploring that subject, was it inspirational for you? Were you surprised by some of the things that came out of it?
Yeah, and it gave me a lot of hope actually as well, that there was another world that's possible. We can head towards this positive vision and we can create the future we want. And throughout the book I kept on sort of returning to sort of permaculture thinking and solutions based. So when I started to write something, like I started to write about our healthcare systems and our education systems. And my first draft, to be honest, was a bit of a rant. And it was like, oh, we don't do this and we don't do that. And it was like, well, how can I turn that around and suggest what we could do and suggest the solutions, put a bit of design thinking into it, apply the permaculture principles. And then what emerged, I was really happy with, how we could talk about revamping our education systems without throwing out everything we do now, but with just improving it and enhancing it.
And indeed, you do apply the design thinking and the design principles throughout the book.
Yes. Yes, whenever I started writing something, that was always the thing that I would fall back on. I would always kind of think, okay, well, what principles apply here? What does the ethics have to say about it? What about the design? And I would always go back to permaculture. So it's very much, the book has grown out of permaculture thinking.
And how would, in a way, it's, it says designing for ourselves, each other and the planet. So what kind of people care do you cover in the book itself?
Well, I started off thinking about ourselves, how we can think about our home environment, how we can be effective in whatever work we're doing, how we can be creative, how we can look after our health and well-being, and what goes on in our mind as well. So I started off with that, and then I looked at what we can do in our one-to-one relationships and in our groups. And then I took it into a wider picture of like what happens in society, and looked at like what we've got already, what we would like to have with our education and healthcare systems in particular I focused on, and then how do we get there? How can we make the shifts we need to? And then I took it to the widest picture, the bigger picture of what's happening globally, what's happening with the other species on the planet. And then I brought it all back round to sort of how we can actually make these things happen with a design framework.